friends, it's Lee here. Welcome to day 1 of Dephemerember. And the prompt for today is fluff and a mason jar. I wasn't sure what we were supposed to do with the animals that were given to us, so what I did was just wrote them all onto a piece of scrap paper like that, put them all in a little jar, and then drew them out and went down the list. So day 1's animal turned out to be a hedgehog, and when I saw it was Fluff, I had a little bit of a giggle because I was thinking, oh, fluffy hedgehogs. So anyway, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and I don't have a mason jar template or printable or anything like that, so I just quickly sketch one and I'll just cut that out of this thing and use the other side of it. Yeah, so I'm not sure how I'm going to go about this. So it's going to be a journal card, as I said, and I've got some images of hedgehogs here. So I've got 4 hedgehogs on that one, I've got another one there, and another one here. So I'm just going to use images out of an animal book that I have got. So I'm going to have a little bit of a think, and then when I know what I'm doing or how I'm going to construct it, I will come back and show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to use a page out of an art journal and just cut it down to size. So what I'm going to be making is like a flip up journal card. So I'm cutting it at 3.5 inches and it's about 5 inches long. So I'm just trying to get my mason jar, which I freehand drew, a little bit more even. And I decided, well, it's a bit big for the card, so I put it to the side and do a little bit of inking. That's vintage photo. I'm trying to get it old and grungy looking, so I'm lightly applying the vintage photo distress oxide all over the card and around the edges. So I'm going around the edge twice to try and get it nice and dark. So I had an idea of how to make the mason jar smaller, so I'm going to trim it on that red line. But I also had another idea, full of ideas today. I wanted to cut the center of it out to make it open. So what I'll be doing is actually cutting inside that space in the middle there, as well as trim off the excess on the outside. Once I finish trimming my mason jar up, I want to add some inks to it. And I'm going to use forest moss and gathered twigs. I do spray some water on it, and then I had some distress spray left over, so I used that around the edge of my card. I just scraped the card through it. I'm gluing a little piece of the background from around the hedgehogs to put in that gap, so it sort of makes like ground for them to stand on. I'm going to stamp some text onto the background before I put anything else on it, and then I'm also going to apply some texture paste, and I'm just going to push it through a piece of tulle just so it has a nice pattern in it. Once that's done, I dry that texture paste off with the heat gun. And I've got a little bit of forest moss which I've mixed with some water, and I'm just painting over the dried texture paste. And I thought there's a little bit left on the plate. I'll just see if I can get a couple of runs on the page. I found it difficult to get it to run down. Managed to get one, so I just used a paintbrush to apply what was left. So now I'm going to put some texture paste around the edge of my mason jar. On the top where the lid would screw on, when I finish putting the texture paste around, I draw some lines into it so it looks a bit like the screw lines. and that's got to dry before I can do anything else. Because it's got the oxide ink on it, that is actually colouring the texture paste. So this is what I've got so far. I'm fairly happy with that, but I think the background looks a little bit plain, so I stamp a couple of feathers into the background. And then I'm trying out my mason jar again. This is my fluff element. It's just a whole heap of fibres that came off some fabric when I ripped it, and it's been sitting in my little trinket box waiting to be used, so I thought this was a good opportunity. So I'm going to put some on the bottom and put the hedgehogs in amongst it. And then I'm also applying some down over the texture paste. Just stuck down the mason jar, and now I'm going to glue the hedgehogs on, and I decide to put a little bit of the fibre onto the back of each of the hedgehogs. And then of course I got it stuck to my fingers and couldn't get it to come off my fingers, and yeah, so I had a little bit of a battle with that. So that hedgehog hardly has any sticking out because most of it got stuck on the back and the glue dried before I could get it off. So the next one I thought I'll put it on the card first and then apply the hedgehog to the fibres. So far so good. I'm loving the way this is looking, and I'm trying to think what next to put on there. So I'm auditioning a couple of bits and pieces. Note the glue bottle lying on its side up in the right. I didn't even see this happening. I'd laid it down because I thought I was going to use it again, and didn't realise that it was oozing out of the bottle. I realised pretty soon, and yeah, so it's a mad dash to get that cleaned up. I thought I'd edge this mason jar a little bit, make it stand out from the card a little bit more than it does. So that's just a like a fine point felt pen. This is when I realised that that glue is seeping out everywhere, and I've got it all over my fingers, and I think, oh well, I've got a blob of it there, I might as well use it and glue down a bunched up piece of that green fabric. It won't lay flat though, of course, so I used my tiny attacher to staple it on. And I've got this little hedgehog that I want to get in there somewhere. I was going to put him up where the green cloth is until I had the glue spill. So I decided to stick him on the inside of the card, on the journaling part of the card. He's up there. And the other one that's left over I popped down on the bottom part of the journaling card. The journaling space, I should say. And I have him so he's peeping in, so cut his bottom off and his head's just poking around the corner. So that is no, it's not, I was going to say that's it, but I decided to add some white ink, and my white ink has gone all funny and it's like solidified in the bottom of the bottle. So it's that old. I think I need to buy a new bottle. Anyway, I managed to get some and splatter it around a little bit. And then I thought I wanted to cover up that staple, and I have some pearl drops. So I put a gold blob of pearl drops on there. And that's my finished card. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out the hashtag Dephemerember to see what everybody else is making. Oh, one more thing I did was I put the number 1, I stamped it on down in the corner with a bit of vintage photo. Yeah, so don't forget to check out the playlist. It's hashtag Dephemerember. If you're playing along too and you're posting on Instagram, I think it's the same hashtag. And this is day 1. So the prompt was fluff and mason jar, and my animal that I used was hedgehog. So thanks to Barbara and Luise for hosting the challenge, and don't forget to have a look at their playlists. We'll see you in the next video. So cheers from Australia. Hooroo!